In 2025, the Trump administration deported 137 people to El Salvador in 48 hours. No trial, no lawyer, just a plane and a destination. The last time that law was used, 120,000 Japanese Americans woke up one morning and were told to pack a bag. They had a few hours. They ended up in camps. That law is working again right now. In 1798, America was terrified of France. French ships were attacking American vessels and war felt inevitable. Inside the country, there were thousands of French immigrants living in cities and towns, and Congress was nervous about who they might be loyal to. So they passed a law that gave the president extraordinary power. During wartime, the president could declare someone an enemy of the state and deport them without going through the courts or holding any kind of hearing. It was just the president's decision, and the person was gone. The law sat there in the books for years. France and America never actually went to war, so nobody ever used it. It stayed mostly forgotten, a tool that existed but was never picked up. Then 1917 came and America entered World War I. German immigrants inside the country started being watched and questioned, and some of them were sent away. The law was there in the background, and the president had the power to use it, so it got used. But the biggest and most consequential moment came in 1941. The day after Pearl Harbor, Japan attacked and fear spread everywhere across the country. The government looked at Japanese Americans, people who were born here, who had homes and families here, who had lived their whole lives as Americans, and decided they were the enemy. 120,000 of them were told to leave their homes and report to camps. In one moment they were Americans living their lives, and in the next moment they were classified as threats. The law made it possible, and the emergency made it feel necessary. For 227 years after that, the law never left the books, but nobody ever touched it. It just sat there in old documents like a door that nobody opened or thought to close. Until now. In early 2025, Trump declared a Venezuelan gang called Tren de Aragua to be invaders of America. He said they were an enemy force attacking the country. Using that declaration, he invoked the Alien Enemies Act, the same law from 1798, and deported 137 people to El Salvador in 48 hours. The reasoning was straightforward. These were dangerous people. Removing them quickly protected Americans from the threat they posed. When you hear this, it makes sense. Gangs are dangerous. If you have the ability to move dangerous people out of your country, why wouldn't you? Why wait around when there's a threat? The instinct feels right. The action feels justified. But here's where something doesn't quite fit together. That law, the one from 1798, it was designed for one specific situation. It was designed for when a hostile nation's government declares war on you, or when a hostile nation is actively invading. The law was meant for France attacking with ships. It was meant for Japan after Pearl Harbor. It was designed for nation-states, for governments, for enemies that have flags and armies. A gang is not a nation. A gang doesn't have a government or an army or diplomatic relations. So how does that law apply here? And here's another question that sits underneath that one. Of those 137 people, how many were actually confirmed gang members? How many were checked or verified before they got on that plane? Did anyone go through their backgrounds individually, or were they grouped together because of where they were from? And maybe the biggest one, if someone gets deported under a law that doesn't actually apply to them, if they get sent to prison in another country for 48 hours with no lawyer and no trial, and it turns out they were never actually a member of that gang, what happens then? Can they come back? Is there any way to undo it? There was a lock on a very old door. That lock was designed to open only during one kind of emergency, when a nation declares war. The lock had a specific key, and that key had never been used except during actual wars. But someone looked at that lock and said the emergency exists now, and they opened it with a different key. The door opened. And now the question isn't just whether the people inside should have been there. The question is whether the lock itself still means anything at all. A federal court issued an order: stop the deportations, hold the people, let them have their day in court. The order came down and it was clear and it was official. But the plane was already in the air. The people were already on it. The administration said the plane had departed before the court order came through, so technically the order didn't apply. By the time anyone could do anything, the plane had landed in El Salvador. When you first hear this, it sounds like bad timing. The court tried to intervene, but the administration moved faster, a bureaucratic scramble where someone lost the race. It happens. Systems are slow sometimes. Orders take time to reach people. But then you start to notice the timeline doesn't quite add up the way it's supposed to. Why did everything happen so fast? Why 48 hours? Why not take time to verify who these people were, to check their backgrounds, to follow normal procedures? There's usually a process for these things: paperwork, verification, time to prepare. But this had none of that. This was a rush. And then a court tried to stop it, and the court lost. The plane was already gone before the order could catch up to it. Almost like someone knew the court might intervene, and the only way to prevent that was to move so fast that the court would have no time to act at all. Is that what happened, or is that just how bureaucracies work sometimes? But it does feel like the speed itself was the point. Get it done before anyone can stop you. Get people on planes and in the air before lawyers and judges can file paperwork and issue orders. Here's what happened next. The Supreme Court of the United States issued an order. Bring them back. Return these people to the United States. It was the highest court in the country saying this needs to be reversed. But those 137 people are still in El Salvador. They never came back. The Supreme Court said one thing, and something else happened instead. So now we have a situation where a federal court said stop, and it didn't stop. Where the Supreme Court said bring them back, and they didn't come back. Where the law said one thing and the action was something else. And the courts, the ones that are supposed to have the final say, couldn't actually make their say stick. It's like the referee blew the whistle and called a foul, but the game kept going anyway. The score stood, the play counted. And by the time anyone could argue about the rules, the game was already over. For 227 years, that law sat in the books. Nobody touched it. Congress had the power to get rid of it, to erase it completely, to make sure it could never be used again. They never did. The Supreme Court had the power to declare it unconstitutional, to say this law violates the basic rights that people have. They never did that either. Presidents could have refused to use it, could have said this tool is too dangerous, we won't use it even if we have it. None of them did, it just sat there. So when Trump opened that old door and pulled out that old law, he didn't break anything. The lock wasn't on it, the door wasn't sealed, it was just waiting. And now you see the pattern start to form. A court says stop and nobody stops. The Supreme Court says bring them back and they don't come back. The law exists to prevent this exact thing and it doesn't prevent it. Why didn't Congress get rid of this law decades ago? Why, after what happened to 120,000 Japanese Americans, why didn't someone say we can never let this happen again and remove this tool completely? Why did the courts try to intervene and then have no actual power to enforce what they said? And here's the deeper question underneath all of that. If the law is still there, if Congress didn't remove it, if the courts tried and failed, then what's to stop the next president from doing the exact same thing? What's to stop anyone from opening that door again and pulling out that tool? There was a room in a house. The room had been there for a long time and nobody went inside it. Everyone knew it was there, but nobody opened the door. The door wasn't locked. Nobody ever locked it. One day someone opened it and took something out. Other people saw it and tried to stop them, but by the time they acted, the thing was already gone. Now the door is open, the room is visible, and people are asking if someone should lock the door now, or if they should seal it, or if they should tear down the room entirely. But the conversation hasn't happened yet. The door is still open, and anyone who comes after can open it wider. That's the system, not one person making a choice, but a structure where certain choices were possible because nobody ever closed the door to begin with. In 2025, the Trump administration deported 137 people to El Salvador in 48 hours. No trial, no verification, just a plane and a declaration that these people were enemies. The official story says this was about removing a dangerous gang, protecting Americans from a threat, making the country safer by moving criminals out fast. But here's what we've traced through. A law that was designed for when nations declare war was used against people from a gang. A court said stop, and it didn't stop. The Supreme Court said bring them back, and they didn't come back. And a tool that has been sitting untouched for 227 years, a tool that was used to lock up 120,000 Japanese Americans, that tool is now in someone's hands again. This wasn't breaking the rules. This was using the rules that were never closed off in the first place. So here's the question that matters now. Was this about stopping a gang that posed a real threat to America? Or was this about one person showing that they alone get to decide who counts as an enemy, and that once they make that decision, the courts can't undo it, and the law won't stop it? Because those are two completely different things. One is an action, one is a precedent. One is about removing 137 people. One is about showing what's possible when a door stays open long enough.